Hi guys, today we are stepping into the wild world with Benhail, who has 2 decades of experience with wildlife rescue and conservation. Not only does he save the lives of animals, but also shares awareness through all the activity he does. So, welcome Ben to my studio, and today we would like to know more about you and especially on all how it started.
Well, I was just a kid, I guess, and my mom used to say that I should like to play with wasps that used to be on the kitchen window and get stung a lot by them. So I guess I always had interest in wildlife. There was not much direction, but I think that's where it started, just observing these little wasps and bees stuck on a window, or going out and watching the butterflies, or catching frogs, for that example. I guess that's where it started. So I wanted to be exposed to wildlife, but there wasn't really any direction at that time.
So how did you start rescuing animals?
When I was around 8-9 years old, that's when we moved to a new place my dad was building in Moira, and this beautiful village. Before that, I used to stay in Polorim. So when we moved to Moira, and because of the construction work, and we used to see a lot of little snakes around. Now my parents were very fond of animals. We never had any pet, but they were fond of animals, being Goans and being around animals for a long time. However, like most people, when they used to see a snake, my dad used to kill the snake, and that's the only thing I knew. So if a snake was seen, whether it's venomous, non-venomous, whatever it is, just kill it. So that was a quick solution. And then eventually I started killing snakes. So when I was between the age of 9 and 10, if there was a snake seen, then I should go and kill it, because there was no fear instilled in me about snakes. However, there was no knowledge either. My neighbors coming to know about this, my neighbors used to call me to kill snakes at their place. So I didn't kill too many snakes, maybe 3 or 4. But in the process, I realized that they're not really harming. I thought, why not catch it and leave it somewhere else? So then that's where I started catching them. And every snake I used to catch it with the head, open the mouth, check if there are long teeth, because I knew a venomous snake would have long teeth. And if it did not have these 2 long teeth in my mind, then I would say, it's okay, it's fine, it's not a venomous snake. I had no idea about snakes at all. So this was, again, at the same age, 10, 11, 12. And there were no books or internet at that time. I mean, there was no internet or computers at home at that time. And definitely no books, because my parents didn't think it would be important to teach their son about snakes. Then eventually, when finally I did catch a snake, a Russell's viper, and I handed it over to the forest department. So this was when I was around 13 or 14 years old. I caught a Russell viper. It was hissing loudly, so when I caught it, then I handed it over to the forest department, and they told me, are you stupid? Why did you catch it? And they gave me a telling, and then I realized it's a Russell viper. And that's when I decided, okay, now I need to learn about these snakes.
So tell me, when you rescued that snake, didn't you have the fear of getting bitten? Tell me on what was going on in your mind.
So I remember I was coming home from tuitions, and I was cycling back home, and I see the snake moving on the path, and it crosses the path and goes in towards this, rubble wall. It goes towards the wall, and then I called my mom and I said, I need some light here. It's pitch dark. There was no lights on the pathway at that time. So I go there, and like normally, I put the stick on its head. And I remember, so many things that could have gone wrong. I chose the wrong stick. It was a dry stick. While putting it on the head, it broke. Yet I managed to grab the Russell viper's head. I had no idea it was a Russell viper. I checked, it had these massive fangs. And I asked my mom, can you get some light? And I remember she brought a candle in a coconut shell, because there was no torch at home, I guess. And I saw that it had these long fangs. And I said, okay, kind of this is going to be a venomous snake. It was hissing a lot. I took it home. The only reference I had to the snake was the copper-headed snake, which is not even found in India. But it was one of these popular mechanic books that I had at home. It was an advertisement for some gun, and on that there was this snake, and it was a copper-headed snake. And I thought probably this is one of those snakes. And I put it in a bottle, put the bottle in my bag, and by bus I went to the forest department with it. The next day, of course. And that's when it all started, actually.
So tell me, Ben, just for the viewers, if they come across a python or a Russell's viper, one is a poisonous snake and another is a non-poisonous, how do you differentiate between the 2 snakes?
Yeah, so Vishal, we generally, it's not a sin to call them poisonous, and I have no problem. But since this is a tool for awareness, we call them as venomous. And the simple difference between venom and poison is that venom is injected into your body, whereas poison is consumed. So snakes, scorpions, stings, it's all venom because it's injected. It's just a simple difference. And poison, it could be a a poisonous frog or a toad or a poison, any substance that you consume and then it affects your body. So snakes are venomous and not poisonous. It's not a crime to say poisonous. A lot of people get offended when people say poisonous snakes. I don't. But it's nice to know the little difference. The difference between a python and a viper. Both of them are large snakes. Both of them hiss. They hiss very differently from each other, but they both hiss. Both of them love feeding on rats and other mammals, small mammals. Pythons are nocturnal, and the same with vipers, they're also nocturnal. So there's a lot of confusion between the two. And it's pretty easy, actually. I don't know why people are still confused between the two, because Russell viper has this oval-shaped pattern, like a chain on the back and at the side of the body as well. And pythons just have a random pattern on the body, random patches of brown. Another way of identifying it, if you look at the snake from far, if there's a torchlight falling on it or if there's a sunlight, you'll see the python will always shine. And the Russell viper is kind of a matte finish. It does not shine. Because the scales of a Russell viper are rough and of a python are very small scales and they're very tightly knit, so it kind of reflects light. So with these two characteristics, it's very easy to identify. There are the shape of the snake and the sound of the hiss, various other ways to identify it, but in this case, I would say just go by the pattern on the body. It's very clear.
I had the privilege to work with Ben in his new series called the Snake SOS, where in one of the series we worked together, and even for the pilot to send it to Nat Geo, we had worked together. So he shared a lot of insights about snakes, how to identify different patterns, which was the poison snakes, which were the big four poison snakes in Goa. So the other day I got a call from my mom saying that there was a snake in a house near to the door, and I was on the way towards the house, and as soon as I reached there, I saw that it was a python. And how I could identify is that you had taught me about the patches, or the patches which is there on the python, and the certain distinct diamond shape which is there on the Russell's viper, and that's how I could identify about the Russell's viper and the python, and this particular snake was a python. And you also taught me how to bag it, and that where without hurting the snake, I could bag the snake and release it very close to its environment, so that it can survive. You also taught me to leave it very close to its environment where it can survive. It has its own food, because the closer you leave it, it is in its own environment. So that's thank you for that. And the thing of leaving or releasing a snake, that felt really nice, because my neighbor who had come over there, the only thing which he told me was kill it, but I was completely against it, because any living thing I don't like to kill it. So I made sure I bagged it and released it, and the happiness which I got while releasing the snake was tremendous. I mean, that felt something different.
I agree with you on the point that releasing a snake back into the wild is the best part, even for me. I mean, consider the entire rescue operation and the stress involved with the rescue and the snake. But those few fractions of a second when you see a wild animal going back to the wild, that's the most satisfying. We have this entire concept of rescue is a misconception. Like, everyone says they rescue, and including me. If you ask me, 90% of the rescues I've done in my life were not actually rescues. We are not really rescuing the animal, we are rescuing people from their fears of the animal. And what you do after a rescue, and a rescue is not complete until a release is done. And the site of release is very important. Like, there's a lot of research going on into saying tigers are territorial, leopards are territorial, but that's our limited understanding. If you ask me, I will say every living organism or every living creature is territorial. They have their space, they have know-how as to where to find their food, their shelter, their water. And the moment you remove an animal from that area, release it somewhere else, you're creating a lot of imbalance. And if your point is to reduce the amount of conflict, like for example, if somebody sees a snake in their backyard and they want to remove a conflict that can happen, to protect their kids or whatever, themselves, and you release it somewhere else, you're not only creating imbalance in the ecosystem, you're actually increasing the chances of conflict happening. How does this work? If I have the opportunity, I'll say this. You have heard of this concept called Zago in Goa?
I have heard about it, but I don't know what it means.
So basically, they say that this Zageto Sorop is a snake, and they refer to it as a cobra. It remains in the same place for years together, and it's a large cobra. And they say that it causes no harm. It is belongs to God. It protects the area. It will never enter the house. It will never bite people, and it's good to have them around. But my thing is that why only a cobra? They should go for all the other snakes. So initially, I should say let's call this a myth and go against it. But it's in a way true. So what happens is if you consider a small cobra, it hatches from an egg and then it takes years to grow into an adult. So maybe 15, 20 years and it's an adult snake, and that's when you're seeing it. Now this snake knows the place. It knows where to find rats, it knows where to find water, it knows where to find shelter, and it's calm and confident in that area. It also knows, for example, human movement. Like for example, if you're walking down a single path every day, it knows that people are walking on this path, and it proactively avoids conflict by staying away from that path. Now, one fine day, this snake is really hungry. It did not get its regular food. It smells these rats moving in and out of your house. It follows the scent trail of rats, enters the house. Now, somebody sees this snake and they say, well, it's not a Zageto Sorop because it's come into my house. But it has always been there. If you have to see it outside your house, probably you'd call it a Zageto Sorop. So now because it's in their house, you're scared. So you call somebody a rescuer, somebody who's really happy and pumped with adrenaline, kind of rescuing snakes, and they call themselves snake rescuers. So he'll rush there, he'll catch the snake, bag it. In the process, depending on how ethical or not he is, he'll traumatize the snake and then take the snake and leave it far away. Now, this is an illusion for the person that the person is safe from the snake. Now, what has happened? There are two ecosystems, micro ecosystems. One is where the house is, where the snake was found, and one is where the snake is released. And there is an imbalance caused in both these ecosystems. Okay, because you're increasing a predator in one place, you're reducing a predator in another place. The second thing is, what about the snake? Now, the snake is in a new place, it does not know where to find a food, water, and shelter. So it's going to start seeking that. It's going to start searching. In the process, it might survive or might not survive. We really don't have knowledge about it, right? But consider it does survive. It finds rats and food. But again, it's an imbalance to the ecosystem. Okay? The third thing that really happens is, now there is a void created in your place. One less snake, one snake that was, occupying that area. And if you're staying in a place like Goa or most places in India, you can remove one snake or 10 snakes or 50 snakes from your place, the next snake will come there. Now consider the next snake that comes there is a Russell viper. It's a new snake in your territory. It does not know the human paths and the human movements. Okay, so now probably it will be hunting on your pathway. When you never had a snake hunting on your pathway, now you have it. And now probably an accident could happen. You could step out of your doorstep and it could be a Russell viper hunting there and you could stamp it and get bitten by it. Yeah? So you've removed a known snake. You've removed a snake that you knew and the snake knew the place, and now an unknown snake has come. So basically your conflict has increased. What happens to the snake which is now released far away from your place? If there are any human settlements there, it will start going towards the human settlements again, trying to familiarize itself or trying to come back to the place it was. Okay? Because all wild animals have this homing instinct. They might make it back home or they might not, but in the process, conflict increases. The same if I can move away from snakes, because I kind of take a more holistic approach towards animal rescue. It's not just snakes. People know me for snakes because there's a lot of conflict with snakes, right? But that conflict is spreading to other animals as well, whether it's crocodiles or leopards. The same thing with a leopard. You catch a leopard because the only sin it commits is it's walking on the road or it's walking in somebody's backyard. They've always been around. The problem is we did not have, for example, CCTV cameras. Now everyone has a CCTV camera outside their house and everyone checks the footage and they see that there is a leopard in their backyard. And then just seeing the animal does not mean that the leopard should be trapped. So then anyway, they call the forest department and pressure is put on them. They'll trap the leopard and then they'll release it in some area very, very far away. So what you're doing, you're appeasing the human beings. Have you solved the problem, the conflict? No. You have increased the conflict. Now the leopard, again, like the snake, is in a new area. He does not know that area. He's going to try to come back home. It has already gone through so much of trauma, being caught in a cage, being traumatized by people and reporters around it, now shifted to a area very far away. Now it starts moving back home, and in the process of moving back home, it's going to cross highways, it's going to cross roads, it's going to move into people's backyards, into their houses, and because it's scared of being in a new place, it's going to try to defend itself when it would probably not have in the first place. And conflict actually increases in this case. Yeah, so relocation of animals does not solve anything. It increases conflict.
So Ben, I want to ask you one more question about this viral video going on about a leopard rescue in Shiolim. Your thoughts about it?
Yeah, Vishal, I've been thinking about this for a while. I was supposed to write a post and then make a video about it. But I was too angry and I was too heartbroken. I've been involved in these leopard kind of situations for many years. And I have my views on it. And it's not really nice what really happened at Shiolim. This is not the first time it happened. This won't be the last time it has happened. And people need to know, okay? You use the word rescue, Vishal. Was it really a rescue? What was the rescue of? Was the leopard in a well? Was it injured in a road accident? Was it stuck on an electrical tower? Where was the rescue really required for the leopard? But the leopard was captured. If you ask me, the leopard was captured from its habitat. It was living in that place in Shiolim. There are leopards in Shiolim. There are leopards in Perne. I have seen them. My friends have seen them when we have been, driving down those roads in the night. People have been calling me over the years that they've seen those leopards there. But what was the harm? The only harm it did was that it was spotted by human beings. And people are just seeing leopards crossing the road, or people are seeing leopards in their backyards now, and thanks to all these CCTV cameras that everyone has, now they know if the leopard has entered. Before that, leopards were moving around people's houses, nobody knew about it. Now you have this CCTV footage, and people have seen the leopard, and now they want it relocated. I don't blame the forest department in the first place for trapping it, okay? I've been working with the forest department long enough to know how they operate. The forest department is a government body. The government body is by the people and for the people. It is going to serve the people first. So when the people pressurize the government, and it's very easy to do in a democracy, you start talking to a politician, start talking to an MLA that will call up one of the senior officers in the forest department and say that this leopard needs to be relocated because my vote bank does not want it there. So why does the vote bank not want the leopard there? What harm has it done? It has done no harm. It has attacked no human being. At the most, the leopard will attack stray dogs and stray pigs and stray goats, because that's fair game. They're all in the wild. It's a circle of life. That will happen. If you're protecting your dog in your house, if you're protecting your goats and your pigs in your house or in your proper enclosures, the leopard won't feed on them. But now that these animals are there in the wild, the leopard finds them easy prey. For example, in urban areas, we have so much of garbage being dumped on the side of streets, which is an invitation for dogs. And the dog population multiplies because of so much of food and so much of waste. And if there are dog population multiplying, leopards from the nearby forest will start coming and feeding on dogs. And generations of leopards will feed on dogs. And so they kind of get so these wild animals now get used to feeding on dogs, for example, rather than chasing a wild boar, which is quite hard, or chasing a spotted deer, which does not exist because people have poached them. So not only have we poached the wild prey of leopards, we have given them abundant of, these feral dogs or domestic animals as prey. So leopards adapt. So they've come from the jungles, from the surrounding jungles where their habitat is being destroyed, where there is no prey. They've come and adapted and evolved to eat dogs and other pets and other domestic animals that are on the streets. So anyway, it caused no harm to human beings. Right. Yeah. So now what they did is they put the pressure on the forest department. The forest department will buckle under pressure. They go and they try to make the people happy. They set a trap. They set the trap and they caught the leopard. They caught the leopard and kept in the cage. And I know how these reporters and journalists are. I want to see the leopard. I want to see the leopard. They'll tell the forest guards, I want to show me the leopard, show me the leopard. So somebody there, I don't know who it was. We normally, when we trap a leopard, we cover it and make sure that it remains a little calm because the leopard is very stressed, very traumatized. It's caught. It's a wild animal being caught in a small cage. So what happens is leopards have this nature that they keep banging the cage. And the way they bang it is with their head. And if you've seen the videos of this leopard, its head is split open. You can see the blood, you can see it's bloody, it's a mess, the head. So normally the forest department will always cover the cage to prevent this from happening. In this case, I have no idea. It was left open for reporters. And then you have this reporter going there, the leopard is tired and exhausted, trying to, free itself. And he's going and saying, oi, oi, oi. And the leopard there snarling and keeping on banging the cage and splitting its head open and getting injured. It was really, really unnecessary. So now you have already caught the leopard, traumatized it. Now you have injured the leopard. Okay, so now you have a leopard from the wild, which is caught, traumatized, and injured in your cage. Then the leopard is taken from there, and apparently, or normally how it works is it's taken from there and released somewhere else. Okay, we don't know, or rather, the public is never allowed to know. I've been involved in such cases, and I know how it is done. And in some cases, we try to mitigate it in the best possible way for the animal. But in this case, What I heard is that it was going to be released at that moment. It was going to be released either in Mole or Netravali, one of the wildlife sanctuaries, okay, which is very, very far from Perne. No matter where it is being released, it's not going to be released in the same spot. So now when you release it in a new location, we all know there is enough of data to say that leopards are territorial. There is no two ways to it. Leopards are territorial and they have a homing instinct. So now that leopard is scared, traumatized, injured. Okay, the forest department said that they did treat it. I have no idea what treatment was done and how it could be released so immediately. I don't know. So it has been released somewhere else in a new place. An injured leopard, a traumatized leopard, now relocated in a place it has no idea about. So now it's going to protect itself from other leopards, which are territorial, we want to attack it, and human beings, and it's in a new place, it's lost. It's traumatic for this leopard. Now this scared leopard is going to try homing and finding its way back home. Why? Even if it is left in the most healthy jungle with a lot of wild boar and wild deer, this leopard does not know how to hunt wild boar and wild deer because it has been hunting dogs, probably since it was born. Probably its mother was hunting dogs. They don't know how to hunt wild animals. So now this leopard, which is adapted to human settlements, is in a wild area, is going to start coming back towards where it was. Yeah? So on the way, it might make it back to the same place. It might not make it back. But in the process, it's going to be crossing highways, it's going to be crossing roads, it's going to go into people's backyards. But now this leopard is scared, it's injured and in pain, and it's going to defend itself at the slightest threat. Now the problem is where there was no conflict, the possibilities of conflict happening have increased. So what have you really done? You have not rescued it, you have increased conflict. And I do not blame the forest department, I'll say it again, is because people are not aware about the wildlife around them. People cannot empathize with animals around them. People do not know that we have to share this space. If you see that North Goa and Sholem area, it's full of outsiders who have been living in cities of Delhi and Bombay and everywhere else. They've come here, they don't know what wildlife is. They see something and they start spreading rumors. And even the young generation of Goans do not know about it. So because we are not aware of it, we are scared. Okay, what is fear? Fear is the lack of knowledge. You're scared of the leopard because you have no knowledge about it. So because we are scared, we tell the department, catch it from here, release it somewhere else. The department will do whatever it takes to please the people, because they are getting orders from politicians, and the politicians have their vote bank there. So just to appease human beings, we are creating conflict with wild animals. And wild animals do not have a voice of their own. They are always pushed to the corner. It's really sad. I don't blame any minister. I don't blame the forest department. I will say that people need to learn to share this space with wild animals. If you love Goa because of the beautiful environment, it is because we have an amazing ecosystem and an amazing wildlife base here. That's the reason it's so beautiful. Otherwise, it's just going to be another city like Bombay or Pune or Delhi.
So yeah, I believe it's a cycle. So one is dependent on the other. So if you remove one element from that cycle, I think the whole chain breaks.
We study about it in school, Vishal. How many of us implement it? We have that thing is very vivid in my mind, that rabbit eating grass and then whatever, snake eating the rabbit and a hawk eating the snake and a circle of life. But who implements it? And that's the problem with our education system. The exposure is not given to kids, to how to implement and live with wildlife.
Yes, totally agreed, Ben. People need to be educated. No matter an insect, a snake, or any wild animal, the first instinct which comes to a person is to kill them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this weird thing is that if an animal is a wild animal, it means that wild animals attack human beings, which is absolutely wrong. No wild animal wants to attack a human being. They always want to shy away from conflict.
And I know this individual who, no matter what she sees, be it an insect, be it a small animal, the first thing which comes to her mind is kill it. Where the other day there was a beehive which was built way above her house. The first instinct was she said, was burn it. It's very important for us to learn, let be.
Empathy is really, really important in conservation. For example, if somebody kicks a dog, okay, I love dogs, right? So I'm just using an example because we have so much exposure to dogs, we can feel the pain of the dog. Yeah, people will come and defend it, and they'll catch that person who has kicked the dog and beat it. But would they do the same if somebody killed a snake or a scorpion? We don't feel the pain of a snake or a scorpion because we can't empathize with it. Don't they feel pain? Of course they feel pain. They want to live. They want to survive. For example, the trees. Like I keep giving this example because the single most creature that I love the most. If you say I love something, I love trees. Now, trees is something that people, with our limited knowledge, we believe that trees do not feel pain and they're non-sentient beings. What is non-sentient? Because we don't understand them, we're calling them non-sentient because they don't have a nervous system that we do. We think that they don't have pain. I mean, there's so much of research showing that, there's so much of research showing that plants and trees, they protect their young, they communicate with each other. There's so much of research showing that. But for us, it's just convenient that because they don't shout and scream, like if you were cutting a tree and it was shouting and screaming and showing signs of pain that we can relate to, we would have said, okay, the tree is feeling pain. Yeah, it's our limited understanding, it's our limited knowledge. We need to empathize with everything around us. Yeah.
So, seeing the whole situation, have you taken any steps to educate people about the same?
So Vishal, I'm trying my best. The problem is that education. So media happens to be one of the main means of sharing information, right? But education and awareness, it spreads very slowly. But it's fear spreads. So education and knowledge spreads very slowly. But fear, because it's dramatic, spreads very quickly. So it's taking a very long time. I mean, things have changed, people's mindsets have changed. I've been interacting with people for the last 23 years. Now people will call me, send me a picture of a snake, and I'll tell them, let the snake be, and they'll allow it to be there in their garden. Or even if it's in their house, sometimes they say, okay, if it's not venomous, let it be there. So change has happened. It's just taking a long time. Do we have that time? I'm not sure.
That was really interesting and very informative. One more thing I want to ask you was any incident you had where you have been bitten by the snake. I know you don't want to talk about it, but just for our viewers, let us know any incident where you've been bitten by the snake, but yet you have this love for these creatures, these beautiful snakes, because snakes, they are protecting themselves, and when they bite. So just give us a little insight on this.
No matter what snake bite is, so I always refer to snakes as a very defensive animal. I will never call them aggressive, no matter what snake it is. Like you can say any other animal is aggressive because it probably proactively will come to attack you, but a snake is always defense. Either you're catching it, you're playing with it, you stamp on it, or you put your hands under a log of wood and you get bitten by a snake. It is always defensive. The bite is always defensive. So it is an accident. It could have been prevented by the human being. For example, in my case, and most cases of rescuers who are bitten by snakes, and many cases are there where rescuers are bitten by snakes, it's always the rescuer's fault, right? So the accident that happened could have been prevented if I was more cautious. Now, there are many times that while treating a Russell viper, I'd had the intestines out, no proper weights around, I'm treating the snake, I'm not very proactively pinning its head down with pressure because I don't want to stress it out further, and I'm holding its head lightly and then it turns around and bites me. So accidents like this have happened in the past. Has it really killed my love for snakes, and why do I continue doing what I do? Well, I don't really love snakes, right? So snakes is one of the many things that I live with, and I know that if I have to love myself, I need to have a healthy ecosystem, and to have a healthy ecosystem, you need everything from snakes to leopards to monkeys and everything else. Yeah, so I don't hate them for defending themselves, and there is no special love or bond that, people say, Benhail, you're a snake lover. No, I'm not. I mean, I love myself more than anything else, right? Snakes is just one thing that I don't want to kill for no reason. Yeah.
So just wanted to know that in case someone gets bitten by the snake, what precautions or what measure they have to take till the medication or the ambulance arrives or they are taken till the hospital?
Thanks, Vishal. This is a very, very important point, because you don't have to know about snakes. You don't need to identify them. That's all okay. But in case an accident does happen and you're bitten by a snake, or if your friend or your neighbor or anyone around you is bitten by a snake, you need to know what to do. Unfortunately, people don't do the right things. They do the wrong things, which makes the bite even worse. Right? It's very simple first aid. The main key intention of yours is if you're bitten by a snake, no matter whether you've seen the snake, you have not seen the snake, whether you identified the snake or not, or even if you're not sure whether it's a snake or not, if there's a slight doubt it could have been a snake, you need to rush to hospital as soon as possible. Now, rush to in a state like Goa, you rush to any district hospital. They're good enough to handle snake bites. Now, what happens is when you go to a hospital, they'll test your blood to see if there's venom in you or not, and based on that, they will give you an anti-snake venom, which is a common anti-snake venom for all these 4 snakes that we call the big 4 snakes, which have a lot of conflict with human beings. So it's a common anti-snake venom, which means you don't even need to know what snake really bit you. If you know what snake bit you, that's fine. You can take a picture of the snake if possible to show it to a doctor so they can prepare for the symptoms and treat the symptoms better. But that's a myth that you really need to know which snake has bitten you. Like I know of doctors telling the people to go and get the snake and come with them. That is really bad because while catching the snake, you can get bitten again. And 2 bites are not better than 1. So, so anyway, coming back to first aid, if you're bitten by a snake, you need to remain calm, okay, and composed. No matter how many times you're bitten by a snake, so no matter how much of exposure you have with snakes, even if I'm bitten by a snake, I will still panic. But the amount of panic I will have is much less than somebody who has no knowledge about snakes, or somebody who has a kind of a phobia with snakes, right? So you need to remain calm because snake bites are treatable. And although so many people die in India of snake bites, it's a very treatable thing, right? You can rush to a hospital and get proper treatment. So remain calm, do not panic. Remove anything that's tight on your body or can get tight. Like if you're wearing a watch, a ring, any bracelet. When you're bitten by a snake, there are chances swelling will start. So even if something is not tight, it can get tight. So remove anything that's tight. Because your intention is not to stop the flow of blood. Yeah. And now here people do the opposite. They'll in fact tie a tourniquet and they'll tie it tight to stop the flow of blood. Okay, so when you stop the flow of blood, you're creating havoc. There is a lot of hemorrhage that happens. Necrosis sets in later on. A lot of people have to amputate their hand and their legs because they've tied it tight, or they lose their ring fingers because they didn't remove the ring. So do not stop the flow of blood. If you want to reduce the flow of blood, you can reduce it. How? By remaining calm and by immobilizing yourself. Yeah? Immobilize the entire body. Okay, immobilize the limb. Do not walk too much. Do not run too much. Okay, because all that will increase the flow of blood. So you want to reduce the flow of blood, not stop the flow of blood. And then if there is somebody around, you need to inform somebody you have been bitten by a snake and take the quickest way possible to go to hospital. If there is an ambulance that you can call, best. But if it takes time, if you know the ambulance is going to take like half an hour, 1 hour, don't wait for it. Hop into somebody's car, hop onto somebody's bike, go as soon as possible to the nearest hospital. So this is very simple. It's very, very easy. Remain calm, don't panic, remove anything that's tight on your body. Inform people around you that you have been bitten by a snake and just rush as soon as possible to a hospital. It's very, very simple. But people will do everything else. They get a chicken and apply the chicken's bum to suck out venom, or they'll go on to some guy who does some mantras and pujas and expect that to save you, or apply some rock or some stuff like that. Nothing against Ayurveda or natural remedies, but when it comes to life and death situations, I wouldn't suggest any of those things. I believe that there could be herbs and plants that you can treat snake bites with, but right now science has not proved it. So I would not suggest it, because if I'm bitten by a snake, I will not take naja and depend on it. Like for many people, say that you should take naja to naja is basically a homeopathic medicine, and I believe in homeopathy, but I would not take it in case I'm bitten by a snake, because I know how serious it could be. Right. And all those people suggesting it also will not take it if they're bitten by a snake, but they still recommend it to others. Right. Because when you're bitten by a snake, time is very crucial. And the thing is that most snake bites in India, because most snakes are non-venomous, most snake bites also are non-venomous. So in that case, you take naja, or you take betadine, you drink a bottle of betadine, or you drink vodka, and you'll be fine, right? Nothing will happen to you because a snake bite is non-venomous in the first place. Right. But if it's a venomous snake bite, which the percentage of venomous snake bites is very low as compared to the non-venomous snake bites. If it's a venomous snake bite and you have venom in your body, you need to go to a hospital and take an anti-snake venom. So another thing that people do is they cut and they suck, which is really, really bad. It works only in movies, not in real life. Right. So do not cut and suck.
So let's come to the point where we talk about your really big break in your life, which is your series running on Nat Geo. I think you have 5 seasons running. So tell me about it, on how did they approach you? How was it, the whole experience of shooting for Nat Geo? I think for any individual, it is one of the biggest platform for you, especially for Nat Geo, shooting for Nat Geo. So tell us a little insight about it.
Yeah, we've shot 5 seasons, and all the 5 seasons are going to, I mean, 4 seasons have been released, maybe the 5th one will be released in a short while. To sum it up, it was a great experience. Like, I hate being in front of cameras even till date, and since I got the opportunity, it took me a while to convince myself that I should do it, because I did not really understand how it would kind of be interpreted by the people, right? And I've seen all the series that you have on TV on snakes. There's a lot of drama on it, yeah. So, but at the same time, I realized that most people that I go and I interact with, they know what a black mamba is, they know what a rattlesnake is, and they'll call a Russell Viper rattlesnake, and they'll call a rat snake a black mamba. So they don't know the local snakes, and there was no series that was really extensively covering snakes in India. So I thought that this would be an amazing platform to share awareness, and that was my intention. And I believe that the best awareness that you can share, or rather the best place where you can share awareness, is when you're doing it in somebody's house. You're rescuing a snake in somebody's house with people around you, with 3-4 people. And just the very fact that this series would be focusing on that, it is a very good awareness tool. And I think it worked very well, because I get a lot of feedback from all over the place that people now know about snakes. A lot of youth is interested in conservation of wildlife or in studying snakes, and they all know how to identify snakes. Like, right from kids from 4 years old to people that are in their 50s and 60s are still watching that series. So I think it happened really well. It all started in COVID, when I had nothing much to do besides rescuing. I was an event manager, so before that I was an event manager. We were busy in events for a very long time, and then when COVID struck, I had all the time in the world to go back to doing rescues and what I'm passionate about. At the same time, there was this production house called Riverbank Studios that approached me and said, like, you're doing this stuff, so why not let us follow you with a camera, and we'll make a kind of a series based on it. And because this production house was highly into conservation and conservation films, it was very easy for me to work with them. Because when you want to get viewership, it's very easy if you dramatize it, right? So snakes people are scared of. If you dramatize it, you'll get a lot of viewers. Now, the thing is that if it's an unethical rescue, it's very dramatic and you'll get a lot of viewers. If it's an ethical rescue, there is no drama at all, and then viewership kind of drops. So I understood that from the TV perspective. The producer said that while you're catching the snake or you're catching the animal, we will not tell you what to do. We just need more screen time of the animal, because when I go to rescue, people don't even see me putting the snake in the bag. It's that quick. It happens very quickly. But they said, since it's going to go on TV and we need viewership, so give us a little more screen time of the snake. That's all they told me. We don't want to tell you what to do while catching the snake. So that was a good consolation for me. So there was drama and everything else, but during the rescue, I tried to walk that fine line of, still being ethical and making it interesting for the viewers.
So now that you have your own series under your belt, shooting for Nat Geo, so where do you look at yourself down the line from here, or what are you looking forward to from now onwards?
I've kind of pulled out from whatever I was doing post this, right? I said that let me do something where I'm passionate about. So the series was something I was passionate about, not entirely the fact of me being on television, because that comes with a whole lot of stress and a lot of commitment towards it, but more about right now I'm trying to do all activities that can basically share awareness about wildlife, so that we can learn to coexist with them. So I do a lot of activities, whether it's camping or treks in the wild or workshops, and all of them have the same message, that rescue is not really an important part of it. Yeah, we need to learn to live with the animals and share our space. I mean, they have been there for much, much longer than we have been there as a human species. They have evolved, and while evolving, they have not done harm to the ecosystem that they have been in. Whereas the humans, who have been one of the most recent addition to the species list on the planet, while we evolve, we destroy the planet, as opposed to an animal evolving. So we need to learn to live and share space with them. Yeah. So that's all my activities are surrounded and based on that, basically.
All right, Ben. Thank you for taking your time and coming to our studio. We wish you all the best for your future, and no matter what you do, I wish you all the best, and thank you very much.